Hello and welcome to County Cricket Natters. I'm Annie Chave, and with me today I have Sam Dalling, Harry Everett, and our special guest is Durham's coach, Ryan Campbell. Hello, Ryan, welcome.
Thanks, Annie. Thanks for having me.
It's been an incredible last round, absolutely incredible. And to take us through the first division, I'm going to pass you on to Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. It has been an incredible round. And a game, now, given that all that happened yesterday, this one feels like a long time ago in my memory because it finished on day 3. I was fortunate enough to be up there. Strange old game because for most of the days, it was really gloomy. The floodlights were on. And then in the northeast, about 5 o'clock, it just cleared and we had these wonderful evenings. I'll come to you first, Ryan, on it. Worcestershire ended up victorious, so naturally a disappointing result for you. But what was your take on it?
Yeah, disappointing. We probably had our opponent on the canvas a couple of times that we just needed to lay a knockout blow, so to speak, but couldn't do it. And to be honest, that shows the character of Worcester. We all know they've been to hell and back this year. And as a group, they've stayed together. And, when it got tough, they hung in there. And like I say, we just, 230 sounded like a more than enough with what had happened, on the first 2 days. But, the facts are the Durham pitch flattens out. And, at some point it was going to flatten out. And like you say, the sun actually came out for most of their innings. And, the overhead conditions on day 1 and 2 really created issues because guys were generally swinging the ball, and that was a lot of the dismissal. So, look, we walk away very disappointed. We don't like losing. But like you say, when you're on top of a team, you have to win in this competition. It's such a tough competition that when you get those opportunities to win, you got to take them. And unfortunately, we didn't.
Yeah, Annie, Ryan said it though. Credit to Worcestershire. They have been to hell and back, and they've had an injury crisis. They've got the players in on loan, people just meeting each other. It's a lovely club. We've talked about what a wonderful place it is to go. Sorry, Ryan, but we have to say it. Really nice to see them get a victory.
It is really nice, and sorry, Ryan, it is really, really nice. And big shout out to Cassie Valley. I mean, fabulous Saka graduate. Really, really pleased for him. How good was he, Ryan?
He was outstanding in both innings. I know he'll be remembered for that second innings, but his knock in the first innings, I think he was the last man out. I think, but he showed that if you have a plan and you have a little bit of patience on a wicket that's doing a little bit and it's swinging around, you can find a way. And I guess as a coach, what I like, and again, without going into too deep things, but what I love about this game that we have is that it's a team sport made up of individuals, and every individual can have their own technique, have their own way of doing things, and he's a piece of a puzzle. And when you put all the pieces together, the puzzle sometimes looks outstanding. And his technique is something that I wouldn't teach my kids. He holds the bat differently. He holds it weirdly. You think to yourself, there's no way he can hit it through the offside, but he does. And he finds it's the same like Steve Smith. He does all these weird things, but then he finds his way. And that's what I love about this game is that he has found his way. And, he's a very good player and made runs in the toughest of circumstances and got his team home.
Yeah, he's found his way, and it's been a long old journey as well. He didn't play hardball cricket until he was something like 15, 16. The 27 he wears on the back of his shirt is because batting at number 11 in a friendly game for a Sunday side, he made 27 not out, and that's where it all started. And he has trialled. It's easier to name the counties he hasn't been on trial with, and he's played. Yeah. He's been on trains. He's been on planes. I think his latest Worcestershire trial, what got him in, he'd been playing in the Kashmir Premier League. He made 100 in the eliminator, 50 in the semi-final. Kadir Ali saw him and they said, do you want to come to Worcestershire? So he landed at Heathrow, went straight to a second team game, had a couple of hours sleep on the sofa and went out there and batted. So it's just a brilliant story to see someone
Good
like
on him.
that doing well.
Mate, there's another kid, again, his name escapes me at the moment, but I think he's been trialling for Glamorgan and been playing in their second team, and he's been a few places as well, and all of a sudden, he's found his mojo and making hundreds, and I think he's just been offered a contract. Again, there's so many good stories that, that's what we hope this game continues to produce.
I think that might be Zen Malik, who I saw play twos cricket, national counties cricket last year. He's a seriously good young cricketer. And as you said, Ryan, right, it's against a serious attack. Talk to us a bit about your attack. We've got you on. We've got to ask you about people like Matthew Potts and naturally Ben Stokes.
Yeah, well, the attack wasn't good enough on the last day, that's for sure, day 3. But look, we pride ourselves here at Durham producing fast bowlers. It's been our DNA since the county began 30 years ago or however long it was. And, we have a long, proud history of producing fast bowlers. Our academy and John Windows does an amazing job, which provides us with the arsenal, I guess, that, we want to go up against it. And this is not just me as an Aussie. This is me as a coach and lover of cricket. I love watching fast bowlers going about it. I love them steaming in, trying to knock people's heads off, and then, having the skill set to test batters in all areas. And, I think we at the moment are lucky where we do have Matthew Potts and, if Ben Stokes played for us, Mark Wood was bowling today in the middle. We've got Bryden Cast, who's unfortunately, not allowed to play at the moment. We've got a host of young kids that, if you look at our youngsters, a kid called Daniel Hogg, Luke Robinson, who played a couple of T20s last year. There's a couple of unbelievable kids coming through and that we're really excited about. That obviously we have to be patient with them. We all know the history of fast bowlers and breaking down. And the facts are that at some point they're all going to break. It's sad, but it's true. It's probably the most unreal action to do is to run full steam ahead and then stop and land your feet and bloody try and get this 156-gram ball down the other end as fast as you can. And I think the only other sport that you could think of is probably javelin throwing is probably the only athletic thing if you could compare them to. But, they have to be strong. And Matthew Potts I'm so pleased that he's been picked in the test squad. You'll know that for England, he'll give everything because he gives everything for every time he's in a Durham shirt. He bowled, especially down at Essex, which was a really flat wicket. He bowled as fast on day 4 in his last spell, 80 overs into day 1 as he did on day 4 than what he did on day 1. So, that's really exciting for England. We need more. I'm not going to say we because I'm not English, but I feel that because I'm so involved in this English game, having the bloody the captain with me all the time. But you guys need to find more of them. I know Keezy has been sort of put on a pedestal a bit and then sort of hung over the coals because he keeps talking about pace. But pace, it's a real thing. It's what needs to happen, and, especially when you get out of this country. It doesn't mean you can't pick kids and guys who are genuine wicket takers. Don't get me wrong. I think Sam Cook's a wonderful bowler at Essex, for instance.
Yep.
You don't have to be at a certain pace all the time. You've got to still be able to work people out and get them out. But like I say, once you get out of this country, pace is important. And, I'm not surprised that they're on the search for it. And, young Pennington is a good example of that, who brings some fast bowling talent. Atkinson, obviously, Mark Wood here, Archer, we talk about. But those blokes don't grow on trees. I promise you they don't.
I wish they did.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier because, I don't care what coach, what scientist comes out with it and says, yeah, I've got the formula for a good fast bowler. They're all absolute full of crap because there's literally the uniqueness of fast bowling. You pick up a ball in the backyard with your parents, you run in and bowl. That's how you bowl. That's your action pretty much for the rest of your life. Some guys are skinny. Some guys are big. Some guys are, short. Some guys are massively tall. there is no science to it. You just got to keep your fingers crossed that you get a couple at the same time. And
England, sometimes the girls as well.
100%. So, we all know it's well documented that England have lost Broad. They're about to lose Anderson, and that's two fast bowlers that 700 wickets each is unbelievable. They're not going to come about in this next generation. You could have a couple that take 300 wickets. That will be amazing, but you got to keep looking for them.
Is there any that you stand out for you, Ryan? Like we talked about the Notts trio of Pennington, Stone, Tongue. We talked about Sam Cook. Any bolters, names that aren't really out there that you might consider for England?
You know what? The two kids that I think, and I say kids now, it sounds like I'm so old, but the two youngsters down at Gloucester actually bowl fast. The readings and the clocks on the umpires' cams and body cams and stuff. They're spitting out speeds as well, and they're the two that are on top of the list. So you have to start looking at those blokes. If you really want fast bowlers running in and bowling fast, then mate, the speedos don't lie, so to speak. So yeah, they're the two I reckon who you haven't really spoken about. Like people they're always going to talk about the same guys. Porter and Cook from Essex are fantastic. Ollie Stone's back bowling fast. He's doing well. It's about keeping his body fit and healthy. Then if he's able to do it, then, mate, he must be having a look in at some point. So, we played against Saj Mahmood when we played against Lancashire, and he's not quite there yet, but you could see it. You can see what all the hype's about. And, he's had, 2 years of horrific stuff that, hopefully he gets over. But it's fast bowlers. It's why I'm so grey, I reckon. It's trying to find them and trying to keep them on the park.
It's a shame that Dan's not on. One of our usual regular co-hosts is a big Gloucestershire man, so he would love. Yeah. I think you're talking about, is it Zum Akhtar and Ajit Singh Dale you're talking about there?
Yeah, 100%.
Singh Dale's got this whippy action. It's unusual.
And it's ball speed. The ball speed, it's there to see. You only have to see that last dismissal of that unbelievable tie they had yesterday. Mate, that's coming through at pace. That looks fast. And I know it's just on a video, but yeah, he gets them through.
He does. We will definitely be coming on to that game. I'm going to pivot slightly, given we're talking about England and fast bowlers and potentially Jimmy Anderson and Stuart. Well, Stuart Broad has retired. Anderson is being retired. But Annie, up at Southport, Jimmy was back on a cricket field. And I get the feeling he doesn't think he's quite finished yet.
Oh, I hope he isn't. I mean, how can you finish when you're getting figures of 7 for 35? I mean, what an awesome player he was, and just lit up that day, and how wonderful for the Southport crowd to see that. Shame about the last day and the rain, inevitably brought a draw. But Jimmy Anderson, he's got to be, he's got to keep going. He has to. I know it's different for fast bowlers, because like Ryan was just saying, they don't last forever, and. But he still has so much energy and such a high skill level.
Yeah, look, if you wanted my 2 cents worth, look, Jimmy Anderson's amazing. For a fast bowler to play at 41 or 42, whatever he is, and over 700 wickets is just ridiculously good. If I put my coach's hat on, though, I will say that I totally understand what England are doing. They have India and Australia next year. They need some youngsters getting time playing Test cricket. They need to invest time in it. And the only way you can do that is to play Test cricket. And if you've got one guy at one end, and again, this you can tell me I'm an idiot, but I had the same feeling about Darren Stevens at Kent, where everyone, and I know Steve-O's a legend, mate, brilliant. But
love Steve-O.
Yeah, but see, I look at it as if I was coaching that team, and I think, okay, if I had those last 3 years of Steve-O invested into another youngster, giving the same opportunity, where will that youngster be now? and you look at Kent and you're looking around and you think, oh, well, they're at the bottom of the table and they're looking for players and this, that, and the other. Sometimes you do have to have, as a coach, and I'll be honest, you probably got a board behind me of all our players and stuff, but you do have one eye on now. We have to win. Don't get me wrong. We're in a results-driven industry, so we have to win. If I come last, I'll probably get sacked. But I also have to think about tomorrow, and I have to think about 2 years' time and 3 years' time to make sure that this club is in a really strong position. And that's why sometimes you have to make some tough calls. And this one is a tough call because we all know the Stokes, Buzz McCullum, the Bazball, whatever you want to call it. The Bazball's not actually about scoring fast and all the hype. Bazball was about creating a great environment, a positive feel about you just go out and play the way you want. And it's a magnificent thing that they've set up. So saying to someone, your time's up, that is against what they want to do. They don't want to do that. But like I say, as coaches and stuff, unfortunately, you have to look about tomorrow as well.
Yeah, tough call.
Very tough. And he's going to get the bloody. He'll be that inundated with job offers and TV gigs and all that. He'll be too busy to worry about cricket.
Talk to us very briefly about a man that you put. I don't want to call it an SOS call, but a man who's at the back end of his career, but is still a fine bowler. Peter Siddle. What was he in Abu Dhabi somewhere, riding his bicycle when you gave him a ring?
Yeah, he was lurking around somewhere. Pete knows that the county game is about opportunity. And, obviously we were very excited to have Scotty Boland here. Unfortunately broke down in a way that was going to take probably 2 to 3 months to get over. And, trying to fill in fast bowlers in today's modern world where everyone wants to just play T20s and, they've got so many different comps going on around the world to get your player that you need is bloody hard work, to be honest. But we needed someone who we could bank on, we knew was a good person, because we're very much in Durham in my time that we don't have dickheads in the dressing room. So we wanted the character of the person is as important as the player. And, we knew Peter Siddle brings all of that, and the experience of being around our younger kids will help them as well. And, mate, all he asked for was, do you mind if I bring my bike with me? That's all he asked. He said, can I just have some extra luggage to get my bike here? And when he had his 2 weeks off, he went and rode some of the Tour de France mountains, the idiot. But that's what he loves doing. He loves riding his bike and going up hills. But yeah, he'll be sadly missed. He was fantastic.
Ryan, do you mind me coming in here? Just the point you make about Darren Stevens possibly depriving a young lad from coming through at Kent, but then you're saying that Pete Siddle is helping the young lads come through and giving that experience. Where's the balance, the trade-off between keeping a Steve-O and Anderson or a Pete Siddle too long, or getting the benefits from them?
Well, the difference there is that Pete's our overseas. So you have to bring in we're always going to bring in an overseas player. So we look at our skill set of what we need and how we can help either our kids, or if he's not going to help our kids, he has to be an absolute gun. And, that's what we get from our overseas. I think that's a bit different to a local. And again, I'm not bagging Steve, because he was unbelievable, like what he did. But I wonder if you just had your time again, you might have needed to maybe give someone a chance to bowl with the new ball for those 3 years. Maybe I'm wrong. But all I'd say is I would have asked a few questions, that's for sure.
Because Kent are struggling, H. We'll go to them quickly. I know there's a game you want to talk about, but while it's like segueing nicely, let's talk about Kent, because they're struggling. Although doing James Vince is batting like that, there's not much you can do, is there?
I want to shout out Liam Dawson, the way he batted at the end, because that chase wasn't easy. There were 3 cracking chases last night, which 3 chases going down the history of the game, you could argue. It was well over 5 and over Hampshire needed, and the openers went early. Middleton at a 6 got out, Alberton at a 6 got out, but Liam Dawson promoted up the orders number 5 and just whacked it around with aplomb. The beautiful shot. I think he was 50 off 21 balls, something like that. He didn't bowl as many overs of spin as I thought he might in this game, but he is such a good county all-rounder that I think without him, Kent possibly might have stolen a perhaps undeserved draw out of that.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Ryan, on the spinners, I know this week, actually, I think it's the first time you've left out a frontline spinner since you've been over at Durham. You're quite big on needing and using a spinner in England, and perhaps we haven't quite got that right in this country over the years.
Yeah, again, and I had probably 3 sleepless nights thinking about it because I saw that the weather was going to be horrible over the 4 days. People can say anything they want about our pitch, but the facts are with the England winter and there's the spring or whatever, the pretend summer that you're calling it is now, mate, we haven't been able to grow the grass. And poor old Vic has been out there day and night with heat lamps and all sorts of things. And if you can't grow grass, it means our pitch, the grass gives it the bounce. And so, last year we did have, I think it was 7 mils of grass on every pitch that we would mow it to. And this year, the last couple of games, we've had to leave it at 9 so we can get that bounce. Because when we played against Essex early in the year, mate, we had our test hopefuls bowling after 30 overs without a slip, and the ball couldn't get through to the wicket keeper. And again, that's no one's fault. That's literally because the grass hadn't grown. So, we obviously gave Vic full clearance basically to maybe he has to leave a little bit more on it to get it through. And it worked well against Somerset because it bounced. And the same with this wicket, it bounced and got through. But in doing that, we had to ask someone like Parky to say, mate, the amount of overs that you might bowl in this game is probably going to be on my hand. Whereas if we played Buster later, he gave us another option, but also his batting, although he didn't make any runs. But that was, and it was a tough call, mate. Like I say, I had many a sleepless night. The only reason I said yes and decided that it was the right thing to do is because we do have Colin Ackerman in the team. So if push came to shove and we needed some overs of spin, Colin can bowl. Colin's a very good, accomplished spin bowler where we didn't have that last year. We didn't have that guy. Scotty Borthwick would bowl, but he was also coming out of some knee trouble. So we're trying not to let him bowl too often. Mate, it's a tough call. I think I know it's hard. It's horses for courses, but I think you've got to play a spinner under every occasion unless it's literally to the point where you just can't. But I think it's way too easy an option for a lot of these teams not to play their spinner, and hence why England haven't produced too many good spinners, to be honest. And, young Bashir, is he the right one? Again, I'm not going to be politically correct here or, get into an argument because everyone's going to have their opinions. Maybe he is because, he looks like a really nice finger spinner. But if you're not your number one in your county, then it's going to be hard because you've got to be playing county cricket to get picked for England, you would have thought. But, I don't know the answers to that. Somehow you've got to get your best young spinners playing and given a chance. Down south, we're playing on used wickets all the time. So, you would think you'd be bowling all your spinners. Liam Dawson does it really nicely at Hampshire. It's an interesting one because also you don't want to – I don't want to be an Australian sitting here to you guys telling you how to play your county game and taking away the characteristics that have made this game so great. The Duke's ball, overcast conditions, the swinging, seaming ball. That's part of English DNA, really. And you don't
want to. What are your thoughts on the ball, though? Because a lot of people have been saying it's very soft this year.
Well, it is. We've changed it a million times this year. Yeah. But the Duke's ball is the right ball. The Kookaburra ball doesn't belong in England. I'll say that for free because the ones that we're using at the start of the year actually isn't the same ball as what Australia uses because in Australia they put more lacquer on it now, and I think we've just got all these older stuff ones. But if you're going to play some rounds of Kookaburra cricket just to try and help you get more ball speed because blokes need to they say you have to bowl fast, you have to hit the pitch harder. Well, that should happen back in the 17s and 19s and academies, because once you get to first class level, you are what you are, pretty much. I can't make Ben Rain bowl faster, but if I had him at 17, I may have been able to help him bowl faster with a Kookaburra ball. So that's the things that you got to take into account. But I like the Dukes. I just think that they got to make sure that you're getting the good ones, because, the amount down in Essex, I think, I'm guessing, but I reckon the ball got changed 10 times for both teams, which, mate, that's just not on. Especially when it's almost a monopoly and you're paying 80 quid a bloody ball for it, or 70 quid a ball. It's a bloody expensive.
We had
to change it after 3 overs. Yeah.
Changed after an over, didn't we, Harry?
Yeah, ridiculous. No, I thought it was an interesting piece, Ryan. I mean, I remember it wasn't long ago. Chap I played against in Dublin Premier League, Matt Kuhneman, was your overseas left arm spin. Rachin Ravindra, you've had some left arm spinners as overseas, but now I suppose you've got Cal Parkinson. Is that just the pitches? Crap winter we've had, 18 months of rain pretty much. But being up in the northeast, you've realised actually you don't need spin as much.
No, like I say, I always think there is a position for a spinner. Kuhneman won us games. Patel won us games. In fact, when I first walked into the office of Marcus North and said I want a spinner as an overseas player, he actually laughed at me and thought I was an idiot. But what I needed to prove, and like having Marcus as my boss is pretty easy, because obviously we played all our careers together, and I just reminded him that when we played at the Wacker, the fastest pitch in the world, we never played without a spinner. The spinner was always the guy who did all the work to give the fast bowlers a rest. But then on the fourth day, he was the one that was going to get something happen. And I proved to him with stats on the ground that if you have an average spinner here, yes, they don't take wickets. But all the good ones who have come up here and bowled, their average is very low. Their strike rate is very high. And once I sort of showed him the numbers, he was all for it. And, that's why at the start we were going to get Todd Murphy, who we think is going to be a tremendous young spinner. And then when he got injured, Cooney was brilliant for us, and we wish we still had him the whole year, but again, ended up injured. So we ended up getting spinners, and then Matt Parkinson came and did a great job for us. And, so it proved that it worked. Like I say, Callum will have a big role for us this year, no doubt. On the fourth day, you want your spinner to be there and thereabouts. And, I think there's a place for them all the time. It's just, like I say, until the conditions become so one-sided that then you might have to, take one for the team, so to speak.
I think you were proven right this week, because Worcestershire had a low-knee spinner, Amar Verdi, in, and he didn't bowl a single over. So it was brilliant to watch him. It was great to see him back playing first-class cricket. But he did take a catch. I was pleased. He took a catch quite late on, and I thought, he can pay his £5 fees for subs, and he didn't get a thanks for coming. So that was ideal. Right, I'm going to move on, because Harry, I know you've been waiting for this moment hugely. Somerset, they were thinking about playing 2 spinners. They ended up playing 1 spinner, and much to your delight, I'm not sure you've slept actually since the end of that game. So go on, I'll throw it over to you and Annie, because you were there. Tell us all about it. Harry, go on, you go first.
Yeah, there's so much I could say. The last 24 hours have been a blur, just speaking to so many different people. A great win. It's one of the greatest wins in Somerset's history. It's one of those statements you can band around, but Pete Trigo's 100 off 50 balls in 2009 will go down in history. This was up there, 409 chased on the final day. Warwickshire had no intent on the afternoon of day 3. That's where they lost it. Sam Hain came in, played a really odd innings, just didn't really go anywhere. Jacob Bethel did his best, but they just scored too slowly on day 3 afternoon, and then they didn't bat on day 4 morning. No one knew if they were going to declare. Even the groundsman, Nick Pepper, didn't know 15 minutes before the start of day 4, didn't know which roller, because Warwickshire weren't telling him what was happening. So we thought they might go on and try and score 50 runs with Burgess and Booth at the crease. Booth's a quick lad worth looking at. But in the end, 409, Somerset chased quite comfortably. Tom Abel batted beautifully, set up by aggressors TKC, Tom Keller-Campbell and Andy Mead at the top of the order. Tom Lambie got a few, and Miggy Pretorius didn't really work as a pinch hitter, but then James Rue got Somerset over line with some brilliant shots. And we shouldn't forget the bowling, because it was one of those flat pitches that was flatter than intended. They wanted to play spin, as we mentioned before. The groundsman couldn't quite get it right to be a spinner. a spin-friendly pitch where you get Leach and Bashir into the game, because Warwickshire only had the part-timers of Yates. Dan Mosley didn't bowl till day 4. Jacob Bethel bowled all right, but there's no Danny Briggs for Warwickshire. So the pitch didn't really turn. It was fairly flat, but Miggy Pretorius and Craig Oakham bowled pretty well for Somerset. Chris Wokes went wicketless, which is pretty rare. Arguably a slightly worrying sign for England. We're great. It's great to see him back playing cricket, but he didn't look quite ready at the moment, if we're being completely honest. But Warwickshire will be pretty gutted and almost went home with their tails between their legs, really, because they were on top most of that game. But that stalling in the day 3 innings, Annie, it just wasn't quick enough, was it? And played into Somerset's hands.
No, I think we ought to give a big shout out to Ollie Hallen-Dolby, who bowled really, really well. He was the scourge of Somerset for a good while, and it did. I mean, the tension, unbelievable. Just, but as you were saying, Shane Berger, the Somerset, was he batting? Yeah, batting so he was absolutely determined that we were going to chase that 410, and absolutely we did. And come on, Tom Abel, what an innings. That last over, was it 2 6s, 2 4s? Let's finish this.
Didn't know what I said before that over, Joanne, if I'm allowed to be a little bit vain. I said on comms, I said 17 to win. Al Davies going to Michael Booth is a very brave decision. He bowls quick, but a little bit all over the place, not quite got his radar right. And Tom Abel knew that was going to come. Him and Tom Banton had top edge 4s earlier on, but he came back for a last spell with only 17 needed, a few overs in hand, and Abel went 4-4, 6-6, job done, bat under his arm, walked off, and the crowd went wild. The atmosphere was superb. Schools Day, days 2 and 3, but plenty of members in for the final day, and just a cracking day of county cricket. The Southwest had all the exciting finishes. You look at Hampshire, which is just about the Southwest, Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, Glamorgan. The 3 thrilling games are all in this little southwest corner. Great cricket.
Yeah, Tom Abel deciding that he was going after his career best score, which he needed the 6 to get there, and he did. What a man. We could eulogise about him. We could eulogise about the whole Somerset side. I think they were excellent. Cambo, I don't know if I warned you, but you're basically surrounded by Somerset fans at the moment.
I didn't know. I didn't know them when when Somerset came up here and it was finished in 2 days. But it's good for you to ring me now.
We were quiet for a few days.
We won't talk about that match.
Well played, Durham.
I want to take us back because it feels like a long time ago now. But on that first morning, first day, Miggy Pretorius bowled a wonderful spell early doors, and I think a lot of Somerset fans owe him an apology because when we signed him, everyone went, "Who is this guy?" But Cambo, you had Miggy with you for a little bit last year. What was he like? What's his skill set? What's he like as a character?
Mate, he's a very good professional. Like we really enjoyed his company, and he bowled some spells. Probably didn't get the wickets that we thought he would, but he always was there and thereabouts. His batting was what impressed us so much. There was once I think we were playing Derbyshire or something. I sent him in as a night watchman and basically gave him a license to go. We need another 60 tonight, mate. So go for it. And he got the job done, so to speak. So. Look, I think he's a tremendous. I think, look, without going too deeply into it, and I sort of said about how hard it is to get county pros. I think Pretorius, I think Smith at Worcester is a great example of how you have to do your research now and find someone who's playing first-class cricket really well in one of these, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, one of these sort of countries who just go under the radar a little bit, but they're available for the whole season almost. They can play all formats. And I know that sounds easier than what it is because it's bloody hard to do, let me tell you. But I think they've got the best out of Miggsy. And like Worcester, got the best out of Smith. He's a tremendous bowler and batter and fielder and team man. But again, then you go there and you think, I've got him, and then he'll probably get picked for New Zealand next year, Smith, or sometime this year because he's going that well. So, and then you have to start it all over again. But yeah, it's those sort of ones that stick out. I think Essex have got Bosch now, who's probably not a household name, but you just got to kind of do the research because every country is trying to protect their fast bowlers now, all their best players from workloads and things. So yeah. It's tough.
Warwickshire had Ray as well, didn't they? And that Will Williams did brilliantly up at Lancashire is now full time with his British passport, but a Kiwi. I love when these names come in and do well. Like people saying, who's Miggy Pretorius? It's not the Dwayne Pretorius a lot of people thought it was. The South African guy is a slightly bigger name. He batted 11 in the first innings, by the way, with 2 night watches. So that's saying something with Somerset's strength and depth for the batting, but having got 95 the week before.
In fairness, Durham had a bloke called Ben Stokes who batted at 9 for them, and I think everyone in their 11 had a first-class 100. It was quite something.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in this county championship.
Michael Burgess batting 8, scoring 130. You look at that; that's ridiculous. Chris Wokes batting 9. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, we'll rattle through them because we haven't been rattling through them. It's my fault completely. I've not been steering the ship well enough. But let's go to the Oval because it was the biggest game in some ways. Top of the table clash. In many ways for the neutral, a disappointing result, but a brilliant result for Surrey and Jamie Smith crowning, is that the right word? Celebrating his England call up with 100 again.
Yeah, he did a good job, didn't he? If anyone had any doubt, he certainly put the kibosh on that because he really batted well. So fantastic from him. But Surrey got 20 points out of that and Essex only got 3 points. So Surrey are flying and everyone's going to be having to chase that.
We should mention our thoughts with Jordan Cox. That's a massive blow for Essex. Leading Jordan Cox and then Dan Sams now as well. But Jordan Cox has been a key player in all formats. And, I mean, they missed him in this game. And he's going to miss the next few weeks as well. He's had his surgery now. I think it's his appendicitis. But he's been key for them with the runs. And, could have maybe been a different game. You never know.
Yeah, because they only had to get 18 wickets, didn't they? So, I'm sorry.
Well, I've said it before, but the whole, talk about recruitment. Essex have lost Sir Alistair Cook and Dan Lawrence, and you barely noticed it because of how well Cox and Elgar have come in and done. What did you think about that, Harry? Because if it had been concussion or if it had been COVID, they'd have been able to replace Cox mid-game. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really tricky one, isn't it? Well, we talk about the Somerset-Durham game that Ryan could take the mick out of us Somerset fans for because Jake Bull came in. Miggy Pretorius did the batting. Jake Bull came in and bowled really well because of the concussion. It does seem unfair. The rules for concussion make sense because I'm a big advocate that we've got to be careful about head injuries, brain injuries, cricket, football, whatever sports. The science is improving now. TKC's thing he wears on his neck is brilliant, and hopefully that's going to help people. But it seems wrong that Essex should suffer something completely out of control. Why should Surrey benefit? Why should Essex suffer? And the whole table, really, this could have been pivotal. You never know. You lose your best player to something that he's done nothing wrong for. Yeah, I don't know how you change the rules for it, but it doesn't seem quite right.
No, it doesn't. Ryan,
can I just say, you got to be careful because we can sit here and say, it should be a sub and all this sort of stuff. Sadly, the facts are, don't talk to me about the spirit of cricket or whatever. Someone will bend a rule. Mate, I sat here last year and watched a bloke against Sussex. Mate, didn't even hit him in the head. But he went out of the game and then, we got a guy come on fresh after 3 days, took forfeit. We had another guy who hurt his ankle, but then suddenly somehow got concussion, who then drove into the car park for the next 4 times, driving someone else here, which apparently you're not allowed to do if you got concussion. But concussion I get, right? I get that. If you get hit, no worries. I've got that. But we can't start going into – so where do you draw the line? Oh, you've got appendicitis. Okay. You can replace him. Okay. He breaks his arm. Okay. Replace him. But then where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I just think, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're not at that stage that this game can be messed around because you can't question a medical person. Don't get me wrong. I would never question a medical officer. But is it the opposition's physio that you're taking the word to? Because no one travels with a doctor. So then you have to have an independent doctor who doesn't have the capability right there and there on the spot say, oh, he's got this, got to go. Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
Mate, I get it. It's a hard luck story, but you know what? Cricket, we have some hard luck stories. Blokes playing with runners. International cricket, you can't have a runner. Here, you can have a runner. We got to be a bit careful. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Speaking as a hard Aussie, but you're right. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of There's a lot of grey areas in
The
cricket.
gamesmanship we don't want, do we?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, elite sport, whenever there's a rule, it will be pushed. That's the thing. Whatever it is, people will push it and find a way. I'm going to stay with you, Ryan, because I want to talk about wicket keeping. You were a wicket keeper. You've got a very, very good wicket keeper at Durham who wasn't named in the test squad. The person who has been named in the test squad is a wicketkeeper, but isn't currently keeping for his team. It's also confusing. Can you explain it all to us, please?
No.
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 Wouldn't happen in Australia, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And let me tell you, okay, so just to give you a background, I played my career with Adam Gilchrist in my team for West Australia. So when Adam kept for WA, I played as a batter. When Adam kept for Australia, I played as a wicketkeeper. Now, that's pretty much saying I should have got picked for Australia instead of Adam because I could bat better than him. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I should. Don't get me wrong.
There's the headline for the podcast.
In the history of the thing. But I said the same thing about Bashir. Like, he's not the number one at Somerset. Leach is. So what does that mean to him? He probably needs to lead counties. Smith, unbelievable talent. Don't get me wrong. If he's the guy, then he's your guy. But when he comes back, he has to be the wicketkeeper. He has to be the number one. You can't have your number one wicketkeeper. So, you know, I listened to Annie and I heard her glow about his batting and he made 100 and he made 70. And brilliant. He deserves his spot, so to speak. Wait till he drops a catch. And then people will start asking questions. No disrespect to Johnny Bairstow, but you want to moan and groan about not winning the Ashes last year. Yeah. Pick a wicketkeeper who could catch. That's poor old Johnny. And I felt sorry for Johnny because he had gone through hell and back to get back on the park because of his horrific ankle injury. Mate, he couldn't bend down to catch. And wicket keeping is an unrelenting, unforgiving pastime. You know, we all play cricket in the backyard where you play with the automatic wicket. As soon as it nicks it out, that's what you think is going to happen. So, to me, look, they've made a call because obviously I think Folkes is the best keeper in the land. So there you go. I'll say it. But his batting, Adam Gilchrist changed it all. You can't do one and not the other. So you have to be a batter at, you know, Ollie Robson bats number 5 for us. That's how good his batting is. So what is going to happen? Smith is going to change games with the bat. I get it. I haven't seen enough of him as a keeper. So I'm not going to say here he can't keep or anything because he probably can. He's probably done enough of it. But you just got to be a bit careful when you're picking a specialist position. And this is where I ask you to sort of, I'm a lot older than you guys, but if you think about when T20 first started, people like Rahul Dravid suddenly was a wickie. Oh, well, we'll just put someone there, but we'll pick him as a batter. Hey, it's all fun and games until he drops 3 catches and you lose the World Cup because you haven't picked your best wicketkeeper. You know, it's in such an important role, and I'm saying this as a wicketkeeper, they have to do both well. And that's the one thing I always say to Ollie Robson here. People are always going to talk about your batting, mate. But to be the best wicketkeeper in the land is what you need to do because that job is so important. And the thing is, you know, knowing Adam Gilchrist so well, the one thing that really gets under his skin is that everyone always talks about his batting. But as a wicketkeeper, he never missed. And he had to keep the Shane Warne, the best fast bowling clientele in the history of the game and all that, never missed. In fact, when he dropped a catch, he retired. That's how much he held his keeping at such a high standard. So I wish Smith all the best. Don't get me wrong. I wish him all the best. And I have no doubt he's a player that will play a heap of games for England. But you've got to be careful about your wicket. They got to catch. And they got to be able to catch very well. Because, like I say, it might not be here. It might not be next series against Sri Lanka. It might be down the track in Pakistan when the ball's starting to keep low and it's starting to go reverse and all that. You miss that one chance and everyone can drop a catch. Yep. But that's the difference between a part-timer and a guy that does it every single day of his life.
Here.
Yeah, Harry and I were chatting to Jack Russell
Yes.
at the beginning of the game at Somerset, and he said to us he wouldn't get in the side now, and that because he didn't bat well enough. That kind of said it all, really. Yeah.
Yep.
No, totally agree with
the history is littered with them, like great glovemen. In Australia, great glovemen. But like I say, since Adam Gilchrist came about, you look at the amount of wonderful keeper batters now. Firstly, who open the batting in white ball cricket, because I remember growing up, and they'd say, no, you're not allowed to open the batting because you're keeping. It's too hard. You got to. What? I want to open the batting and I want to keep. And I want to be captain as well. How about that for throwing things into the bat? It's like, but that's what we can. But people who haven't done it just sit there and go, no, too hard. So you needed someone to break the mold, and which Gilly did. But now everyone has to live up to that expectation. And, it's like someone bowls leg spin now. If he's not, he has to be Shane Warne. Like, that's what he's compared to. So every fast bowler who bowls for England now is going to be compared to Broad and Anderson. That's the brilliance of greatness, and you have to live up to it.
It is, and particularly making your debut at Lords as a keeper, it's not an easy place to keep. James Bracey did it, perhaps a tad too early, and I think that is a good way of segueing. Thank you very much, Harry. Into Division 2, because this is a man who we saw wicket keeping. Annie, I'll hand over to you for this one.
Yeah, I suppose we ought to probably start with the Gloucestershire Glamorgan game, and I'll let the man himself talk us through how he felt it went. Yes, so it was the highest ever fourth innings score in the championship. Let's not forget that. But what a game between Gloucestershire and Glamorgan. And they were all out for 179. And it was all done in their first innings. And that was all done at beautiful ground of Cheltenham. So it couldn't be a better place, really, for a wonderful game like this. And wickets fell pretty quickly on the first day. It looked like it was going to be over really, really quickly. But the second Gloucestershire innings turned the game on its head, and there was 204 not out from the wonderful James Bracey, who incidentally we had on this programme last time, and I think that's made him obviously think about his playing very hard. So I recommend anyone who wants to do well in the championship to come on to this show. And 184 from Bancroft was wonderful as well. My brother was there and he said it was really fantastic knock. And 121 from Miles Hammond. So Glamorgan's reply was, well, let's face it, 187 from Sam Northeast and 119 from Labuschagne. What a player. It led to an incredibly tense finish with Crane and McElroy down to the last ball and a tie. What can I say? I think somebody else probably should describe that last, probably over.
Well, Mason Crane, I thought, arguably almost lost the game in that last, which sounds really harsh, having got to 14 back really well. He didn't take the run. He played a shot, I think it was second ball, should have run. You got Jamie McElroy, had already hit a couple of runs. He can bat. He's not a terrible number 11. Mason Crane takes that run. He takes the scores level. Then they've got 3 or 4 balls for the number 11 to try and win the game. But instead, he tried to keep the strike. Then he had a few dots. And suddenly, I mean, a tie is probably what it deserved after an amazing 4 days. And James Bracey's celebration was amazing. The controversy, was he allowed to take his glove off? Was he not? He took the catch and then went wild. And I love that. Absolutely cracking scene. Just finished at Taunton. And then we were all trying to watch the Glamorgan Gloucestershire action. Absolutely thrilling. But yeah, Mason Crane potentially could have won it a little bit easier early in the over.
How hard is it to do what James Bracey did, Ryan? I don't know if you've seen the clip of him taking that catch.
Did. Well, wikis, we do practice that for T20 basically towards the end. Mate, that was just a brilliant catch. Like, he didn't expect he was going to nick it and have to catch it. I think it was more about the run out, like he's going to have to run around and do it. But, mate, what a game. Like, you think of, who says 4-day cricket's boring? Like,
I don't know.
so much. It's like, yeah, both teams. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, I reckon last year we spoke about ties being more important than draws because it was only 5 points for a draw. But if you tied, you would get 8.
Yeah.
Whereas this
Great
year
point.
it's all 8, so it didn't really matter. So, yeah, it's one of those. But look, gee, the belief in teams now going for the scores. I think if you're going to block out the last day, you're going to get yourselves out. So, we well documented, we don't try and draw here. We will always go for it. Obviously, Somerset felt that they could go for it on the last day. And, Glamorgan definitely thought they could go for it. It was probably their best way of survival. And, it's probably in that situation, I know it sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but it's probably a perfect ending because both teams didn't deserve to lose that game. But, yeah, mate, brilliant reflex catch, that's for sure.
I just we haven't got a lot of time for the rest of the second division, but we will.
That game deserves all the time. Don't worry about it.
It did really. I'll just quickly take us to another beautiful festival ground at Chesterfield. Unfortunately for Derbyshire, it wasn't the result they wanted, and they were bowled out initially in their first innings for 76, and Yorkshire's reply was slightly different. They reached a mammoth 451 for 9 and declared, and there were hundreds for James Wharton and wicketkeeper Jake Tattersall. So it's pretty poor for Derbyshire. Ben Code obviously came back with a fantastic 6 wickets as well, but a pretty poor show for Derbyshire, who only got 3 points, and Yorkshire 23. So unfortunately, Derbyshire right at the bottom of the table at the moment. Sam, did you catch any of that?
Yeah, little bits and pieces. Yorkshire just coming strong, aren't they? They had a slow start, but they started winning games. They won up at Scarborough heavily. They won at Chesterfield. Little nod to David Griffin, a friend of the show, who had a book out on the history of festival cricket as well. So that's well worth a read. Cambo, do you enjoy a bit of outground cricket? You're playing at South North, aren't you? A bit later in the One Day Cup.
Love taking cricket to the people. In Australia, we go to country areas and play games. It was always my fun game. We played at Scarborough last year. Unfortunately, it rained for probably 2.5 of the days, which is disappointing. But yeah, it's such wonderful atmospheres, small grounds. People are right next to you. Even playing at Kidderminster when we were down at Worcester. Obviously, their ground was under repair, and getting that. It's almost like back to club cricket vibe about the place was pretty cool. So, look, I think Yorkshire, to be fair, have just started to roll. They were probably disappointing the start of the season when they couldn't force a result, even though they had guys like Root and Brook and all these sort of guys playing. But their bowling didn't look like they could get wickets. And I got to say a big shout out to our boy who played for us a bit last year, Vichy Fernando. I think since he's come into the team, he's done a great job for them. Because they've got good bowlers, Yorkshire, but without Fisher, they lack a bit of pace. They can be a bit. Code's obviously shown. Milne's now out injured. You look at Hill and Revis and Thompson are probably all the same, who can all be good, but are also batters as well, which you're probably going to have in your team. But yeah, the fact that they're starting to take 20 wickets is really important for them and obviously any team if they want to win games of cricket.
Yeah, on that Fernando note, just to remember, also the Sri Lanka under-19s playing England under-19s. Great to see a lot of the county championship players playing in not only the first-class county select 11, but also the under-19s playing against Sri Lanka. And I just think there's so much great cricket going on at the moment that it's great to see the young lads who've done a bit in the championship, some of them. Great to see them getting this exposure in the international scene as well.
I'll just quickly take you through the last 2 games. So Leicestershire played at Uptonsteel and had a really surprise win, really, against Middlesex, considering the table. So really, they're very pleased for them, but it probably didn't feel like that they should have. it was obviously a good shout to bat first for Leicestershire, but it probably didn't feel like it when they were out for 179. And everybody will have kept their eyes on Cambo, of course, but only in the first innings he got a 15-ball duck. So that's the way cricket goes, obviously. But 4 wickets apiece for Toby Roland-Jones and Higgins. Higgins still being really, really fantastic in everything he does. But the Middlesex were all right for 89. And it looked like, that the game was going to be over really, really quickly. But I think Leicestershire will be very, very pleased with their 2 Somerset players, Goldsworthy and Ben Green, who are on loan, both top scoring. So Leicestershire managed to win, and Middlesex didn't get the chase. They were 123 short. So what are your thoughts, Harry, on Ben Green and Goldsworthy, just very quickly?
Yeah, just great to see. They love Ben Green up at Leicestershire. He got the final winning catch as well. Wickets, runs. For Somerset, he was an opening or top 6 bat. For Leicestershire, he bats 9 after Ben Mike and Ben Cox, the 3 Bens in a row normally. And he's a first change bowler, whereas for Somerset, he'd be one of the last bowling options. So it's funny the way different teams see different players. But great to see Goldsworthy and Green doing well up there. And even Louis Kimber has to resort back to his offies after all the runs he got last week. He's a bowler this week.
Absolutely. Did you catch any of the game, Sam?
No, not much, I have to confess. But great to see Ben Green, career best first class batting and bowling. So that's a decent game for him, I reckon.
Yep. And just quickly, we'll go to Northants v Sussex. And it looked like it was going to be another really low scoring game when Sussex were put into bat and were all out for 143. Highest score for the opener was Sussex was 35. 4 wickets for Jack White and 3 for the stalwart that is Luke Proctor. Sussex then reached 237 in their second innings. 40s for Simpson and Haynes. 4 wickets for Proctor and 3 for Sanderson. And despite a decent partnership between Emilio Gay and Prithee Shaw, Northants were all out for 220. A fifer for Nathan McAndrew, including 2 in 3 balls. Sussex, another win, and this time by 63 runs. Do you know Nathan McAndrew well? Ryan?
I don't, but I know he's a very good, again, another very good professional. He's one of those ones that New South Wales produces a lot of fast bowlers. They got the population, but, through lack of opportunity, he went to South Australia and has done really, really nicely for them. And we had a close look at him last year, obviously, when we played against Sussex. And he's just, again, that sort of player that's probably not on the Australian radar at the moment, but good first-class cricketer in a really tough competition and comes over and does a really good job for Sussex. So, they're going nicely. Sussex, 150 points at the top of the table, really flying along, which I really hope they come up, because I love Hove. I love going for a trip down to Hove. It's a really good place to go. Great beers and stuff. So, bring back Sussex.
Absolutely. No better place. It's lovely, actually, to go to Hove. You're absolutely right. Lovely by the sea.
Just means it's another 8 hours on the bus for us. But anyway, travel aside.
Yep. Okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. And unfortunately, there's not going to be any full ball cricket now for about 6 weeks. So we will be back at the end of August, beginning of September, if you believe it, just after the summer ends and white ball takes over.
When Ryan's boys come down to Somerset, we'll look forward to that. Ryan, we'll have to get you live. We'll have to have a proper catch up then, and we'll have to see if Somerset can get the revenge.
I expect to be told, shown the best pubs and the best food and the best everything when I come down. I'm really looking forward to it. An old mate of mine, obviously, from my Dutch days, Roelof van.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'll have a braai with you, won't he? We'll show you around. We'll give you the proper tour.
Yeah, and you might catch up with some lemon bees as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'll have to do a live.
I've got a couple to catch up with for sure.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for listening.